truly wish I wasn't here today doing this. Pat said that God may be finished with Johnny's work on earth, but none of the rest of us were. And I can definitely say from our department, we certainly were not finished with Johnny King. He knew he had some rough edges, and we all knew that. I mean, Johnny was a regular guy just like us.
There's a line from a movie that's always stuck in my mind, one of the Clint Eastwood movies, man's got to know his limitations.
Johnny absolutely did love the fire service. Absolutely. I think it changed his life.
It's a lot of fun. The flame gets up and it hits that ceiling, and it starts to roll over the ceiling. It's just, the flames are like dancing.
There is no greater tribute that a person can leave as a legacy than that is in the lives of others.
He was my hero. Always will be. I hope he was y'all's.
Once while traveling with his family to Oklahoma, they saw a car that had a personalized license plate on it. The letters were PCACKE, and Johnny said, "Cocky." And Pat was quick to let him know that it read, "Piece of cake." So from that time on, when challenges came up, or Johnny was asked to do something or to help with something, he would just say, "Cocky."
On behalf of the family, and on behalf of the people of the town of Castle Rock who Johnny served, on behalf of the town council, the town staff, and the staff of the Fire and Rescue Department, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today to celebrate Johnny King's life. I was in St. Louis when I was informed of the news, and I don't think it really hit me until I had a chance to visit Pat at the home. And I think what stuck with me the most is Pat said that God may be finished with Johnny's work on earth, but none of the rest of us were. And I can definitely say from our department, we certainly were not finished with Johnny King. He was a true inspiration to everyone on our department, and as Paul aptly put it, any obstacle that was put in Johnny's way, he would overcome, and inspired all of us to do so. On behalf of the town of Castle Rock, I'll be presenting Pat with his helmet. And one day in the locker room, as the academy was approaching, he said, "Chief, what would you think about me participating in the academy?" And I said, "Well, Johnny, I had full intentions of you helping out with this academy." And he said, "Well, what would you think about me being in the class?" And I thought, well, Johnny, let me think about that. As I look at fire academies, it's physically exerting and taxing, and requires a lot of things out here on the drill ground that are difficult for people with two legs. And so I said, "John, let me think about that." Which time I talked to Chief York and Chief Bowman, and we discussed it, and we thought, well, we'll let him do that. We'll let him try it, and we'll let him go, see how far this will go. And of course, now that's all history, and we all stand and are amazed and awed at what we saw him do, especially the guys in his class.
In the years that he was with us, I never heard him complain at all. He would just grin and say, "I'm glad to be here." He spent many hours in the burn building over there, setting fires for training burns, monitoring conditions in the building, and even cleaning out the debris after the training was over. His dedication to the job and to the assistance of training firefighters was remarkable. So we think at Parker Fire that it is fitting for us to dedicate the burn building in his memory. The Parker Fire District Burn Building is dedicated to the memory of Parker Fire Training Assistant Johnny King. And in quotes it says, "I love this stuff." Johnny spent many hours helping to train firefighters in here, but he could always, quote, "take the heat." Dedicated this 29th day of November 2000. when new firefighters go through the academy in the future, they will likely ask, who is Johnny E. King? And years from now, I hope that the training officer then will relate to that recruit that a man named Johnny, who at a young age was disabled in the services of his country, became a volunteer with Castle Rock Fire Department, and came to Parker as a training assistant. And he assisted in the training of firefighters and demonstrated to all of us that we can overcome whatever it is that seems to handicap us. The fire service is resplendent with legends handed from one generation to another. Johnny will become part of the Parker Fire legends that will be handed down to new generations of firefighters. Because of this, I believe it will not just be a bronze plaque on the burn building that is a tribute to him, but rather the fact that there is no greater tribute that a person can leave as a legacy than that is in the lives of others.
I truly wish I wasn't here today doing this. But in memorial services, it seems that we always make the person out to be somebody with a saintly nature. And if Johnny was here, he would be laughing at us for trying to do that, because he knew that he wasn't, and he knew he had some rough edges, and we all knew that. I mean, Johnny was a regular guy just like us. But he did have some amazing attributes. And I think that any of us that knew him would be able to say that first and foremost of the attributes that we'll remember about Johnny was his amazing positive attitude. Johnny had an attitude that we can do it, that I can do it. And all the guys that I know that he rubbed shoulders with here, that we trained together, were amazed at that, his positive attitude. I never once, and Chief Foreman alluded to that, ever heard in all the time I've known Johnny, the last 4 years, ever heard him complain or use his handicap as a crutch. You never tell Johnny you can't do something. It was a sure way that he would be doing it. So I'd come down here if I had something to do, and I'd say, you know, Johnny, this needs to be done down here. And well, I was thinking, well, maybe not. You probably couldn't do that. And he'd look at me and start laughing and say, you just had to say that, didn't you? You just had to say that. And so off he'd go, and he'd figure out some way to do it. And sometimes that was a challenge for him on my part. But Johnny always came through. I could always depend on him. One of the other things, Johnny was always amazing me because he would reach out and do things that I never thought he would be capable of or would even attempt. And I'd come down here and grab him and say, Johnny, what do I have to do? How do I get it to your thick head? You're handicapped. Stop doing this stuff. And that was a joke between us because I knew that Johnny wasn't handicapped. In fact, I think Johnny made me realize that being handicapped was more of a mental disability than a physical disability. Even though Johnny didn't have legs, he didn't consider himself handicapped. And after a few days with Johnny, you wouldn't figure him that way either. Johnny absolutely did love the fire service. Absolutely. I think it changed his life. But he would always tell me, these are some of the greatest people. These are some of the greatest people I've ever known. And he was so glad to do what he could do. And I know that the people, the uniformed personnel here that he did know and have a relationship with, that he loved each one of you and thought the world of you. And so it's with great sadness that we say goodbye to Johnny King.
Johnny came to the fire department because somebody sent him. He didn't want to come to the fire department. The first day he walked in, he said, I've got community service hours. I think he had about 250, maybe 500, I don't know. And he said, well, what can I do? And I said, well, I don't know, I have to think about that. So I asked him, I said, what can you do? First thing he said was, I don't do windows. But he did everything that we asked him to do. And like Wayne said, I had a job, I had to keep busy. He always came to me and he said, well, what else have you got? It seems I spent a lot of time trying to keep Johnny busy and not doing my job. Some of the things that some of the people don't know about Johnny, Johnny was an excellent gunsmith. There was a day when we were in the station in the day room, and over the scanner we hear the story. Dispatcher saying, we'd like you to respond to Wilcox Street. We've got a man with a gun going down the street with a wheelchair. Right away we knew who that was. And here comes Johnny in the door to the fire station, and we started laughing. There were about 6 or 8 of us in there. We started laughing. And he was kind of mad. He said, why are you laughing at me? I said, well, we're not laughing at you. And we explained the situation to him. We got on the telephone, we called the police department. And of course, they didn't believe us. So they came to the fire station. And again, we burst out laughing as soon as they walked in the door. And if you want to make a cop mad, you laugh in his face.
Johnny was in my academy, and with Parker. And if you got all these people together and they were honest with you, they would tell you that we had the hardest and the best academy this district's known. You may get a little bit of debate in it, but at least give me the fact that it was unique. We had a 42-year-old bald slug, a 20-year-old, 21-year-old rocket boy, 2 300-pound nacho-eating DG medics, 6-foot Tommy, 5-foot Ted, a farmer from Oklahoma, and a round guy in a wheelchair. You know, we had a pretty unique academy. I'm going to give you just a quick story. First off, to set the chief straight, we saw him upside down a lot of times over here rappelling. I mean, he wasn't great at rappelling. He was good at a lot of things, but that wasn't one of them. He's pretty much good at everything else. We got down probably about the last part of the academy, last third of the academy, and we started running evolutions out here at the burn building. And we were taking turns, lieutenant, firefighter, engineer. Me and Big Jim Miller and Johnny, and we were running. Johnny, we're going swapping around positions. Johnny, okay, you're engineering. Johnny said, I don't have any legs. Jim said, I ain't got no legs, I ain't got no legs. We're tired of hearing it, Johnny. It's all we've heard for months now. And I said, yeah, Johnny, next thing you'll be wanting a special place to park up here, won't you? And he just started laughing, but just like everybody else said, that was kind of what you thought about Johnny after you'd been around him for a while. And just like everybody else was saying, you kind of forgot he didn't have any legs.
So Johnny King wanted to go into the classroom to talk to the kids about fire safety. And he was phenomenal. I mean, there's something about him that when he went into the classroom, the kids all were in awe. You know, they had a million questions about his legs, but then they wanted to hear everything he had to say. And we did go to classes a lot. I don't know exactly what he said during the class. I don't even know what he talked about, but he got on the floor with the kids, and they were all, you know, just listening to everything he said. You know, and he talked things that most anybody would say, I think. But what we heard is I'm still getting phone calls from the parents of the kids that were in that class, and they say things like, well, Johnny King said, and to do this fire safety, Johnny King says we have to have a smoke detector. Johnny King says we have to have a exit plan. It wasn't the fire department. To him, he was their hero. And we don't see these kids here, but there's people that aren't here that are also touched by Johnny's life.
I think if we have a responsibility to ourselves and to each other as a service organization, that would be that we allow what we know about Johnny, how he inspired us, to make sure that we continue to inspire.
Chief Shum, a few years ago when Johnny showed up for a class that I was instructing, I believed that man had lost it, and he was over the edge. To your credit, Chief Qualman, Chief Brown, some of the smartest stuff you've ever done.
But you have to understand that to call him Johnny was hard for me, because the dignity that that man brought to our fire grounds and to what we do, I had to call him John. And that was just between us.
And I think